Hello boys and girls, we are on page 9 of your homework. Make sure you are on the correct page. We're going to be talking about a couple questions here. So, number 1, use a set square to draw a line perpendicular to the x-axis through point P. Label the new line as the y-axis. So I drew one right here. I just got like a piece of paper because I don't have my ruler with me. So I just got a piece of paper and I drew the line, okay? So this line right here is the x-axis and this line right here is the y-coordinate, okay? So on the same thing on the other side, I drew my x-axis, so the line that goes up and down is going to be my y-axis. If you need to move your paper so that you can see that it's straight, then you can. So this looks easier for me to see because that makes it perpendicular. I don't want to accidentally draw it like this or, like this by accident because I couldn't see it. So if you need to turn your page, then you can, if that helps you. And that's all you have to do for A. For B, it asks you to choose one of the sets of perpendicular lines above and create a coordinate plane. Mark 5 units on each axis. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to mark 5 units on each axis on either one. This one is longer, so I'm going to do this one. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and on the other line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I kind of want the lines to be even because if it's all over the place, it's going to be difficult to identify things. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, for number 2, use the coordinate plane to answer the following questions. So A asks you to name the shape at each location. So I'm going to name the shape. Same thing earlier, I'm going to highlight x coordinate and y coordinate. And I'm going to figure out where things are. So 2, 4. So that means I need to go on this is my x-axis. I'm going to highlight it so that you guys can see more clearly. And this is my y-axis. Okay. So for the x-axis, they asked me to go over 2 times. So I go over 1, 2. And then they want me to go up 4 times. So 4 up is right here. And this is my circle. So the shape, I'm going to circle it. This is my circle, and I'm going to write in circle. And then the next shape is I move over 5 times for the x-coordinate. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I go up 4 times. So I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, and right here we have our diamond. So that's my shape. I'm writing it in. The next one, it tells me to move over 1 time on the x-axis and then to go up 4 times on the y-coordinate. So I'm moving up 5 times, and I'm circling it. Right there is a triangle. So I'm writing in triangle. I think my pen is not working. It's very light. There you go, triangle. Now, next I have my x-coordinate. I need to move over 5 times on the x-coordinate. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then on the y-coordinate, it tells me to move up once. So right there I have my heart. So I'm going to write down heart. Now, for problem B, it asks you which shape is 2 units from the x-axis. So 2 units over is going to be 1, 2. Oh, sorry, 2 units right here. 1, 2. So they're counting these little squares right here. So this is 1 unit, and this is 2 units. So 2 units over is going to be my star from the x-axis. And, sorry, I'm saying that wrong. 2 units up and down, right? So that means 2 units away from the x-axis. 1, 2. So counting these units right here. So 1 and 2. That's how I'm counting. 1, 2. And that's the star. Now for C, we have which shape has the same x and y coordinate. So right here, you go over 3 times for the x coordinate. And also you go up 3 times for the y coordinate. So your square is the answer for that. Now I am going to turn the page. And we are on page 10. For page 10, the first question asks me to name the coordinate plane to answer the following questions. So I'm going to make sure that I highlight my coordinate plane again because that helps me visually to see where things are. If it doesn't help you, you don't have to write it. And I know that my x-coordinate is always going to be the first one, and the second one is my y-coordinate. So they want me to identify where the moon is. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to identify where the moon is. The moon, it looks like these are in the middle of 1 and 2, a whole number is always considered half. So, for example, if this is one whole and I fold it in half, that is going to give me half pieces, right? So the lines in between here are all 1/2. So 1 and 1/2, 2 and 1/2, 3 and 1/2, 4 and 1/2, and 5 and 1/2. Just so you guys have an idea. The same thing on the y-axis. So the first one asked me to identify the moon, and that's what I have. I have 2 and 1/2 on my x-coordinate. I'm looking right here, 2 and 1/2. And on the y-coordinate, I have the number 4. So I'm going to write down 4. Next, I have the sun. That's the sun. I'm moving over 4 exactly. So I'm going to write 4 for my x-coordinate. And my y-coordinate stops at 3. You see that? So I'm going to write the number 3. Next, I have my heart, which is right here. I moved over 1. So I'm going to write down 1. And then for my heart on the y-coordinate, I'm going to look at it. It is heart at 2. So I'm going to write down the number 2. Next, I have my cloud. And my cloud doesn't move at all on the x-axis, the green axis at all. It stops at 0. So I'm going to write down the number 0 for my x-coordinate. And for the y-coordinate, I'm going to move up. Let's see. It stops at 4 and 1/2. So I'm going to write 4 and 1/2. Now the smiley face is all the way over here. And I notice on the x-axis, it stops at 3 and 1/2. And for the y-coordinate, the up and down line, it stops at 5 and 1/2. So I'm writing down 5 and 1/2. For problem B, it asks, which two shapes have the same y-coordinate? Okay, so the two shapes have the same y-coordinate. So looking here, I notice that the heart and the star, which isn't identified, but for the star, your coordinates is going to be 5 and 1/2 and 2. So they both have the same coordinate for the y coordinate. So right here is y and this one's red. Okay? Now plot an x at 2, 3. Remember that the first one is always the x coordinate that you go over first, and then y is going to be the next one. So I'm always on the line first for the x coordinate. So I'm going to move over 2 times, and I'm going to go up 3 times. So this is where they want me to plot it, and they want me to put an x right there. So I'm going to draw an x right there. The next one, problem D, asks you to plot a square at 3 and 2 and 1/2. So the 3 is the x coordinate, and the 2 and 1/2 is considered the y coordinate. So I'm going to write, I'm going to look at 3. So I'm moving over to 3, and I stop at 3 right here. And then I'm moving up 2 and 1/2. So this is where it stops at 2 and 1/2. So that's where I'm going to plot my square. So I'm going to draw a square right there at that coordinate. Okay. I'm going to draw a little line so you guys know. Next, it asks me to plot a triangle. So I have x is my 6 and y is 3 and 1/2. Okay, so I'm going to move over 6 times, which is right here. And I am going to go up 3 and 1/2, which stops right here. And they want me to plot a triangle. So I'm going to draw a triangle right there at those locations, at this coordinate location. Okay? Now, for problem number 4. It says here, Mr. Palmer plans to bury a time capsule 10 yards behind the school. What else should he do to make naming the location of the time capsule more accurate? So what he should do is he should also determine where to measure the 10 yards from. This is somewhere along the x-axis. So if he wants to bury something, I think he should draw a coordinate and then label the measurements so that they can find out where is, where he chooses to put the time capsule. And that is all for today. That's the last page.